in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can V-bit carve something that's quite large and probably will be too big to fit on your CNC machine. And I'm going to show you how you can split this up into various pieces in order to make a larger piece. So what I'm going to be doing is creating a V-bit carving on this image that I have here. And it's going to be quite large. Okay, so let's open up the software. And I'm going to create a new model. So here you can see I'm in Carveco Maker Plus. And I'm going to do this, let's say 8 by 4. So 96 inches by 48 inches. Crank up the resolution, not too fussed about that in this example. The units, I'm going to do this in inches, and the origin position. Now, this is quite important for this particular job because it has to be set to the bottom left corner. Okay, if I were to set this in the center, then it would give me an error when I tried to split up the toolpath into sections because it would sort of be offset. So it will then give me a warning that I need to set my origin to be at the bottom left. So just a word of warning. So let's set that to be at the bottom left and select OK. And this will open up my new model and put me into the 3D view. Now what I'm going to do is to import an image. So there are numerous ways that you could do that. You could have just imported the image first of all and then saved the vectors that you create and then create a new model. But what I'm going to do is go to Bitmaps, right click and select Import. Let's go to the desktop and in that Fox folder, and you can see that I've got this image here. Now, importantly, I need to take a look at this scaling down here. If I were to select None and select Open, now the reason that it's not displaying in the 3D view is because I have my material displayed. So if I left click here and on the flyout menu select Display Bitmap, it will display the image. Okay, now you can see that this isn't the full image because it's not scaled it down, it's just imported the image at whatever size it was created at. So let's open up the bitmaps and I'm going to delete that, and then let's do that again. So select it, and then under scaling I'm going to choose to fit and select open, and this should look a little bit different. Okay, so that fits within the model. Now it's entirely up to you if you want to do this in the 3D view or the 2D view. I'm going to do this in the 2D view just for this example. So I'm going to switch back to my material and you'll see that the bitmap or the image won't be displayed any longer. Okay, so let's switch over to the 2D view. And here you can see my image. Okay, so to quickly generate vectors around this image or to trace around this image, what we need to do is use a tool called the Bitmap to Vector tool, which is at the top here. So if I click on that, and then what you need to do is reduce the colors. Now there are quite a few tutorials explaining how to do this, so I'm going to assume that you already know how to do this. If not, take a look back at some of the other tutorials and it will go into more detail how to use this tool. So reduce the colors, and I'm just going to bring this right the way down to 2 colors because I just want the black and the white. So select apply. The colour that I want to trace is actually the secondary colour, as you can see down on the colour palette here. So the secondary colour is the black colour, and I'm just going to use the default values for this and create vectors. Now, if you want to see what these look like, then what you can do is drop the contrast slider bar down, and it basically washes out the image so you can see what's going on. So if I zoom in, you can see that it's created all of these vectors around all of the parts of the image. Now, I'm not too fussed about editing this. I'm hoping that this will actually machine okay. Now, as you can see, this is probably the wrong way around to actually machine for this. So what I'm going to do is rotate it 90 degrees. Now, I can do that using the transform tool and enter 90 degrees. I'll show you a quick way that you can do this. So if you go into the transform tool, if you hover outside of the object, you'll get a cursor that looks like a rotation cursor. If you hover inside, you'll get a move cursor. Okay, so if I hover outside and then left click and move, you can see that it rotates around. Now, this is just rotating around freehand. If I were to press Alt on the keyboard, it will give me a 15-degree angle snap. Okay, so I can make sure that I get that at 90 degrees. And then let go. Press F9 just to make sure that that's in the center. And then if I select one of these handles here, you can see that I can resize this. Now, what I need to do is press Alt on the keyboard, and then that will resize it from the center. Okay, so that looks okay, like so. And when you're happy with that, either press Escape or just click on the model. Okay, so this is the piece that I want to actually machine. Now, if I go to the 3D view, I can see it. Now, I know that I'm wasting a lot of material around here. I'm basically going to cut this up into sections, okay? Let's say that my machine that I want to cut this on is only maybe, let's say, 3 foot square, okay? So I need to break this up into sheets, okay? Now, what I'll do, I'll just move that down. I can do this just freehand. Just select it, and if I press Alt on the keyboard again, it will maintain a 90-degree angle snap. Okay, so just move that down. Now, I know that this area here on the right-hand side, I don't need to machine it. I've also got areas here and here, top left, bottom left, where there will be parts of it that won't be machined. I'm not too fussed about that for this example. Okay, so let's get on to machining this. So if I select all of the vectors, hopefully there won't be any vector intersections or problems with these vectors. If there are, we're going to fix them. So if I go to Toolpaths and then select to create a V-bit carving toolpath. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is just use a tool. Okay, just select a large 90-degree V-bit. So let's use this 1¼ inch 90 degree that I have. Click select, and importantly, I'm going to click refresh. What this does, it tells you the maximum depth that this can go down to. Okay, so it gives you some sort of idea before you actually go to machine it. It will also give you an indication of any problems that there are within the vector artwork that I'm trying to machine. Okay, so there are vector intersections, so I need to sort this out. So somewhere there are vectors that are going over the top and intersecting. So let's select OK. And to be completely honest with you, I haven't got a clue where these vector intersections are because this piece is so large. So this is where the vector doctor comes in handy. So if I go here to the vector doctor, and I'm not going to worry about the top here, and I'm not going to worry about these things called coincident points. All that I'm worried about is vector intersections. So if I click identify, and it gives you an indication with a green circle where there are parts that intersect. Now, quick tip, if you zoom out, you'll be able to see the circle a lot better. Okay, so let's zoom in, and you can see that I've got an intersection here. Okay, so this is really easy to sort out. I could node edit it or trim this or do whatever I wanted so that piece wasn't coming over the top there. What I'm going to do is just literally move that out of the way. So let's just move that down to there. Okay, now that should have fixed everything. So if I draw the box around that again now, let's just move that over to the side so you can see a bit better. Draw a box, create V-bit carving toolpath, select my tool again, 1 1/4 90-degree V-bit, click refresh, and this time it should give me the maximum depth that this will go down to. It'll take a little while to calculate because this is quite a complex piece of vector artwork. So this wants to go down 1.109 inches. Now, let's say all of these pieces or all of these blocks that I've got are only 1/2 inch thick. Okay, so I don't want to go down that thick, that deep. So what I'm going to do is limit the tool to a maximum depth. And the maximum depth, let's do it, let's say 1/4 inch. Okay, and let's see how this looks. Now I'm not going to add the roughing tool, not just yet. I want to take a look at it first. Now what I need to do is define the material. So if I click define material, the material thickness I said was 1/2 inch. Material Z0, that's all completely dependent upon where you set up your machine, whether you set up at the top of the material or you set to the machine bed. Model position, that doesn't matter for this. That's only important when you're doing 3D relief work. So click OK, and that will set up my material block. If you want to see it, use the middle mouse button, so press it down, hold it down, and then you can move. And it will show you the material block. And you can see it just underneath here in this lighter blue colour. Right, so that's okay. Let's click calculate now. And this will calculate the toolpath. Now I'm going to speed this up for the purpose of this tutorial because this will take a little time to actually calculate because it's quite a complex piece. Okay, so that's calculated. So let's close the V-bit carving toolpath and I'm going to simulate this. So right click on the V-bit carving and either use simulate toolpath to get a really quick simulation, or you could use the control bar and this will show you exactly where it's going to machine. So if I play that, you can see that it's basically doing all of this V-bit carving. So let me fast forward that. Okay, so that looks quite good. If I take a plan view of that, take a look at it, I'm quite happy with that. Now, the only thing that I would say is that maybe these areas here, and there's an area here, maybe let's say that I didn't like that. What I could do is to add a roughing tool and then it will rough out all of this and it wouldn't leave you with that effect. Okay, I'm not going to bother for this. What I want to do is cut this up because this is way too big for my CNC machine. Okay, and the pieces of wood that I have are Let's say that it's quite small. Let's say my CNC is really small and the maximum that I can fit on here is 12 inches square. Okay, so what we're going to do is chop this toolpath up into 12-inch square sections. So then what I can do is machine each of these 12-inch square sections, and then I can put them together at the end to create a larger piece. So if I go to Toolpaths, I'm just going to delete the simulation, and let's just show the vectors. So if I go to Toolpaths, and down here we have something called Panel Toolpaths. Okay, so if I select that, what this does, it basically splits up the toolpath into sections. So let's say that my sections are, at the moment, it's 800 inches by 400 inches, so it's absolutely huge. So if I were to select here, create regular panels, all that this would do is create one panel. And you can just see a tiny one in the center of the model there. You can probably see this better within the 2D view. So you can see that one there. Now, if I were to change this to 12 inches, and select create regular panels, you can see that it split this up into 32 panels. Okay, now a lot of the panels over here I won't need, especially numbers 29 to 32. I can just ignore those. I won't need to machine them. If we take a look in the 3D view, you can see that it split it up into panels, and I can see which one is which. Okay, if I wanted to, I can overcut this. So basically what will happen is various parts of the V-bit carving will go over size, and then what I could do is cut that off afterwards so they fit absolutely perfectly. Because if I were to machine this like this, I would get little areas that would be, say, the radius of the V-bit carving when it was coming up. Okay, so I may need to overcut this. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind when you're doing that. So you've got panel numbers, so you can either have it going along X, like so. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it comes back 9, 10, 11, 12. Or I could have them going up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like so. Below that, it gives me basically the size of all of the panels. Okay. The 3D view toolpath drawing. Now, what you need to do for this is turn on the 3D toolpath. So if I turn that on there using that light bulb, I can see in red the 3D toolpath. If I turn off the vector visibility, it just shows me that toolpath. Okay, so that's in red, and you can see all of these blue are rapid moves. If I click display selected, it just shows me what panel 1 is going to cut. If I choose panel 6, then it shows me what panel 6 is going to cut. Okay, and these are all from the origin of the machine. So this is assuming that I'm putting 12-inch by 12-inch piece on there. Okay, I can also have finished job, so it will move it basically where it's going to be finished in the job. Okay, so as it's shown on the screen. Okay. So if I go back to display all, and I've just turned it back to at origin. Now, if you click display panel info, what this does, it gives you a sheet that you can print off, basically just telling you which sections match up to which. Okay. Now, it automatically knows that panels 29 to 32 aren't actually going to machine anything, so it hasn't given you a preview for that. Okay, so it tells you exactly what you need to know, and it tells you what toolpaths you're going to be using, and you can print this off. Okay, and then when you're happy, click Save Panel Toolpaths. This takes you to the Save Toolpath dialog, as you would in any other toolpath if you were going to machine it. And I've already got this set up in the folder, which is called Fox. And I'm just going to call it Tiling. Let's use the machine file format. This is basically a converter that converts the information from Carveco into a format that your CNC machine will understand. So if I come up to a Shapeoko inch, click Save, and then I can cancel that, open up my folder, and you can see that I've got all of these tiling panels, which is NC code. So each one of these, if I select Open With, and I'll just open that with WordPad, each one of these is information telling my machine what to do. So commands and coordinates on how to cut this. So stick your 12-inch by 12-inch piece on the machine, use tiling panel 1 to cut that, take that off, stick your next 12 by 12-inch piece on the machine, and then machine panel 2, and so on. And then at the end of it, you can put them all together and you've got an 8-foot by 4-foot piece. Okay, so that's pretty much how Paneling Toolpath works. I hope that you found this useful and it gave you some ideas of what you can actually accomplish with your smaller machine. And you can create absolutely huge pieces with this software. You just need to panel them up and put them onto the machine and put them all together at the end.